You're listening to Rabbi Aryeh Wolbe of Torch in Houston, Texas. This is the Thinking Talmudist podcast.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Thinking Talmudist. This episode is going to be fabulous because we're learning a very important piece of Talmud, which will outline the reason why the temple was destroyed. And it's a very, very fundamental piece of Talmud. It's in tractate Gittin 55b on the bottom. Talmud begins as follows. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said, "My dechsiv, what is an illustration of that which is written? Ashrei adam mefache tamid. Fortunate is the man that always fears the consequences of his actions. Umakshe libo yipol bera, and he that hardens his heart will come to harm." Right? The verse is illustrated by the following three episodes in which tragedy struck people because they failed to consider the consequences of their actions. We all know that actions have reactions. You do good, you get good. You do no good, you get no good, right? How do they say it today? They say, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, right? Yeah. This is the way it works. People do silly things, right? Or people do actions and they don't consider the consequences. It could be devastating. Here is the amazing story. Kamtza and Bar Kamtza choruv Yerushalayim. As a result of the incident involving Kamtza and Bar Kamtza, Jerusalem was destroyed. Tur Malka choruv Tur Malka. As a result of the incident involving a rooster and a hen, Har Hamelech was destroyed. It's a very populated province in the tribe of Judah. And then Ashaka de Rispak choruv Betar. And as a result of the incident involving the side of a carriage, Betar was destroyed. And we know we have the Haruge Betar. We had hundreds of thousands of people were slaughtered in Betar. And it was a very, very devastating, it was a city of great scholars. It was a city of great Torah wisdom, Torah knowledge. And it was destroyed. For what? We're going to learn about these three stories. So Gemara recounts the incident involving Kamtza and Bar Kamtza. Kamtza, Bar Kamtza, choruv Yerushalayim. As a result of the incident involving Kamtza and Bar Kamtza, Jerusalem was destroyed. Dahu gavra, a certain man, derachame Kamtza, ubal deboive Bar Kamtza. So a certain man who had a friend named Kamtza and an enemy named Bar Kamtza. He made a banquet. He made a celebration. He told his attendant, Zil aise li Kamtza. Go and bring Kamtza to join, invite him to join the banquet. Ozal aise le Bar Kamtza. By mistake, what did he do? He went and invited the wrong person. He invited Bar Kamtza instead of Kamtza. Also, Ashkeche Dahavi Yosef, when the host arrived at his banquet, he found the wrong guy sitting there. He saw Bar Kamtza sitting there. Amar lei, he said to Bar Kamtza, Michti ahu gavra bal debava dahu gavrahu. He says, look here, that man, you're my enemy. You're my enemy. I don't want you here. My bayasacha, why did you come here? I don't want you here. What are you doing here? Kum, pok, please get up and get out. I don't want you at my party. Amar lei, Bar Kamtza said to him, Hoil vasoy shavkon. Since I have already come, I already came to this party, let me stay. He says, I will give you as a recompense, as a payment for everything that I eat and drink at this party. Amar lei, the host says to him, no, I will not let you stay. Amar lei, Bar Kamtza tells him, I'm going to pay for half the value of the entire banquet. Imagine, someone makes a wedding. A wedding's expensive. Someone comes to the wedding, I didn't invite you. Leave. He says, listen, I'll pay for my food. He says, I'm sorry, out. He says, I'll pay for half the wedding. Right? Still. Amar Lei, he says to him, the host says to him, no. Amar Lei says back to the host, I'm going to give you money for the whole banquet. I'll pay for the whole thing. Just don't kick me out. Don't embarrass me like that. Amar Lei, lo. Nakte biyode v'ukme v'afke. He grabbed hold of Bar Kamtza with his hand. He stood him up and threw him out of the banquet. Amar Bar Kamtza said to himself, since the rabbis were seated at the banquet, and they did not rebuke him for the way that he treated me, we see it's evident that what he did was acceptable to them. And now, if this is the way the rabbis tolerate someone acting, Ezil echul be kurze be Malka. I will go and I will spread slander against the rabbis in the royal palace. Ozal Omar LeKesar, he went and told the Caesar, Mordu bach Yehudai, the Jewish people have rebelled against you. Omar the Caesar says to him, Shdar luhu, Omar Bar Kamtza says to him, Shdar luhu korbana, send them an animal as a sacrifice in their temple, Chazis I mikarvinle, and see if they offer it in the temple. Azal shadar biyadei egla tilsa. The Caesar went and sent a very fine calf with Bar Kamtza. Bahade de Kaasi, as he was going to Jerusalem, what did he do? Shada be muma beniv sfasayim. Bar Kamtza caused a blemish in the calf's upper lip. Now we know that an animal that has a blemish cannot be brought on the temple as an offering. So here he did a very noticeable, on the upper lip, you can't miss it, right? You look at the animal, you see there's a flaw, there's a blemish. And now this animal cannot be brought as an offering. Ve'amru la bidukin sheba'ayin. And some say that what he did was he caused it to have a cataract in the eye. He poked it in the eye. Now the eye is not looking right. And duchta delididon have movie. Either way, he ensured that the blemish was in a place where it was considered a blemish for everyone. And everybody who would see this animal would say, this animal cannot be brought as an offering on the temple. Right? So it was an obvious blemish. But it was to those who would know, it would be a blemish. But those who wouldn't know, they wouldn't consider it a blemish for offering outside of the temple, although the animal was unfit to be offered in the temple. Savur Rabbanu Lekarove. The rabbis considered offering it Mishum Shlom Malchus, because they were concerned for the sake of peaceful relations with the Roman government. They were considering maybe we just bring the offering. Even if it's not a valid offering, we'll do it just for the sake of peace. Because what's going to happen if the Roman Caesar hears that his offering wasn't accepted on the temple? That would be a big offense. That would be a terrible thing. That would not go over well with the Caesar. So they were considering it. Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulas, Rabbi Zechariah, the son of Avkulas, said to them, Yomru, people are going to say, Bali Mumin, Kraven Gabe Mizbech. People will see that we brought this animal, and they'll come to a conclusion that blemished animals may be offered on the altar in the temple. Savur Lamiktele. Then the rabbis considered maybe just killing Bar Kamtza because they knew it was a setup. Maybe we'll kill him. And that way he won't be able to report back that we didn't bring that offering. Amar Lahu Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulas says to them, Yomru meitil mum bekotshim yaharek. That perhaps someone will come to a conclusion that if you bring a blemished animal to the temple, then you're warranting a death penalty, which isn't true. So people are going to get the wrong idea. So Rabbi Yochanan interrupts the story, and he just makes an observation here. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, an visonuso Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulas, the tolerance displayed by Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulas in refusing to have Bar Kamtza put to death, he cherivas botenu, that destroyed our temple. And burned down our sanctuary, and exiled us from our land. So there's a number of things here that need to be focused on. Number one is Rabbi Zechariah. Is that our problem? I mean, the commentaries go on and talk a lot about that innocence that was wrong by Rabbi Zechariah. Then now the whole temple was destroyed because of him. So that's one thing. Yeah, he needed to be a little bit more accepting. Yeah, we should have brought that offering. Or we should have put him to death because he's going to threaten the entire existence of the Jewish people. That's definitely, you take one instead of taking many. But why isn't there a comment here from Rabbi Yochanan about the rabbis who didn't do anything at that party? Should they have said something? Shouldn't they have said something? That's something that we should have a comment about. That's something that should have been mentioned. Why wasn't it mentioned? Our sages want us to be disturbed by this. Our sages want us. Yeah, but you know what? If you saw something like this, if you came to a wedding and someone, you see the bride's dad comes out and he says, "What are you doing here? Mr. Joe Schmo, what are you doing here? You're my enemy. Get out." And everyone, it's a whole commotion. "Get out of my daughter's wedding. Get out." Wouldn't somebody go over and say, "Mr. Poor guy, like, what are you throwing him out? What are you humiliating him? Why are you doing this?" Let bygones be. You'll find a way. Put him in the back. Put him at the back table. Why? It's obvious that it's wrong. It's obvious that what he did by throwing him out is wrong. That's not the way we act. That's not the way we behave. So why didn't the rabbis say anything? The rabbis didn't say anything because they probably didn't notice it. If the rabbis would have noticed it, I have no doubt that the rabbis would have said something. No doubt. But they didn't see it. So maybe they should have looked. Maybe they should. I don't know. We're not there. They were much greater than we are, so we can't criticize them. But it's definitely something that should bother us. That when we see an injustice, it's like they do these studies in New York City with people mugging someone in broad daylight, in front of people. Everyone just keeps on going. Just keeps on going. No worries. Don't ask, don't tell. Don't get involved. It's not my issue. You see people getting mugged on the train. Not my issue. I'm not looking. I just want to get home safely. Leave me alone. That's not the way we should act. When you see someone else being harmed, you should stand up and do something. Say something at least. Say this is inappropriate behavior. So here now the Talmud now continues. Yeah. So the Mesilas Yesharim talks about this. The Or Chasedikim talks. Many of the Musar masters talk about this story and say how this was wrongful humility. It was wrongful innocence. What do you mean? Don't be so innocent and do what's right. Right? The entire temple is going to be destroyed because of this. What are you having mercy on this? Okay. So now the Gemara continues. Shadar ilovayu lulin Neron Caesar. He sent against them to Nero the Caesar, and Nero set out to attack Jerusalem. He was so angered that his offering was not accepted by the Jewish people. I sent him the choicest of animals. He didn't know that on the way Bar Kamtza blemished the animal. He didn't know that. Shada gira lemizrach asa nafal b'Yerushalayim. He shot an arrow towards the east, and it fell in Jerusalem. L'ma'arav asa nafal b'Yerushalayim. He shot one towards the west, and it fell in Jerusalem. La'arba ruchos hashamayim asa nafal b'Yerushalayim. He shot an arrow towards each of the four directions, and each one fell in Jerusalem. Amar leili nuka. He asked the young boy, Psok li psukech. Tell me your verse, meaning the verse you are currently studying. Amar le, the boy said to him, V'nosati is nikmasi be'odam biyad ami Yisrael. I will take my revenge against Edom through the agency of my people Israel. God will ultimately punish Edom for their treatment of the Jewish nation through the agency of his people. Amar, he said to himself, Kucha brichu boy licharuve beisei. The Holy One, Hashem, blessed is He, wants to destroy His house. Uboy lichapure yodei be'ahu gavra, and He wants to wipe His hands clean of that man, meaning me. Orak ve'ozal ve'igayer. He ran away and converted to Judaism. And v'nafak minei Rabbi Meir, and Rabbi Meir descended from him. Since God had decreed that Jerusalem be destroyed, why would Nero be punished for, in effect, fulfilling God's will? So this is a known question, okay? Can anybody harm the Jewish people if it weren't for a decree from heaven? No. You can't harm the Jewish people if God decides that they won't be harmed. So what did He do wrong? God wanted them. It's almost the question that people ask. Well, if God decreed that the Holocaust should happen, then why is Hitler to be blamed? Right? He just did the service of God, so to speak. Obviously, that's nonsense. Because, yes, there was a decree in heaven that terrible tragedy should happen. Definitely was. But God didn't say that you should do it. Yeah, there was the decree. He says, no, I'm going to take this one. I want that. I want to do this. That's what they will be punished for. They're going to rot in hell for forever. They will. But you didn't need to be the one to jump to do it. And you did. And for that reason, you're going to be punished. Nero, even though it was decree from heaven, why did he need to do it? Because you wanted to. Because you wanted to. And you just had an excuse now to do it. This is a devastating thing. So he did tshuva. He says, according to some opinions, the Gemara refers to Nero Caesar, although secular history records Nero Caesar as having died in office in the year 68 Common Era, 2 years before the destruction of the temple. It is possible that in fact he disappeared and it was merely assumed that he had died. The Gemara in Tainus gives a similar explanation for certain historical events of the death of Chonia Me'agel, that he didn't really die, but he just was out of their view. They didn't see him anymore. Okay. The Gemara now continues. Shadre ilovayu la passionus Caesar. Caesar sent him, Vespasian Caesar, against the Jews. Also Tsar Allah Tlas Shnei. Vespasian came and besieged Jerusalem for 3 years. Havu bo hanu tloso atire. And there were 3 very wealthy men in Jerusalem. Nakdimon ben Gurion, Nakdimon the son of Gurion, Uben Kalbasavua, Ben Kalbasavua, and Ben Tzitzis Hakeses. These are the 3 people. Now the Gemara is going to explain their names. Okay, they're very interesting names. Nakdimon ben Gurion was so called why? Shenakda lo chama ba'avura. Because it once happened that the sun miraculously pierced Nakda, the clouds, on his behalf. What's that story? The sun was made to shine in the sky after sunset had passed, so then Nakdimon's repayment of a loan that he had incurred on behalf of the people would not be considered late. Right? So he came to pay. They're like, it's late. It's late. You're paying back your debt late. We're going to charge you an interest now, or we're going to penalize the people. He says, no, it's still light. Look. And they look up and they see the sun piercing through the clouds, even though it was nighttime already. Special miracle. Ben Kalba Savua. What is Ben Kalba Savua? Why was he called that name? Shekol nichnas lebeso. Shehu ro'ev kekelev yotza shehu saveya. Anybody who would come into his house hungry like a dog, like a kalba, would leave satisfied like a savua, which means completely satiated. Ben tzitzis hakeses. Why was he called that? Shahoyse tzitzis nigreris al gabe kisosos. Because when he walked, his tzitzis trailed behind him on cushions. He walked only on cushions fashioned from fine fabrics. Ika de Amri. Some say that he was given the name Shahoyse kisiso muteles ben gdoli Romi because his seat cushion, his keses, was placed among the nobles of Rome. And why does it say that he was hungry like a dog? So the Gemara in Shabbos explains that a dog is hungrier than other animals because it has less food available to him than any other animal. So now the Gemara continues. Chad Amar Luhu, one of these three rich men said to the rabbis, Ano Zaine Luhu Bechiti Bisare. I will sustain the people with wheat and barley. V'chad Amar Luhu, and another person said, B'dechamra u'b'demilcha mishcha. I will supply them with wine, salt, and oil. V'chad Amar, and one said, B'detzive. I will supply them with wood, so that they can warm up their homes. V'shabchu rabbanon l'detzive. And the rabbis gave special praise to the one who promised the wood. Why? His pledge was the most generous. Why? Because wood was required in a greater quantity than the food. You need a lot of wood for a lot of homes. And that was a greater, I think it might also be because the bread and water people are always concerned for. So you have many people who are willing to do it. But not everyone's willing to pay the electric bill. The Rav Chizda kol aklide have masar l'shameh. Rav Chizda entrusted all his keys to his attendant. Bar midtzive, except for the key for the storehouse of wood. The Amar of Chizda, because Rav Chizda said, Achleva dechite boi shitin akalbe detzive. To bake a storehouse full of wheat into bread requires 60 storehouses of wood. So that means my wood is so important because you're not going to be able to do anything if you don't have that wood. You're not going to have the wood for the ovens. You're not going to have the wood for the homes. You're not going to be able to, right? So it was very, very, very precious. These three men had enough supplies to sustain all the residents of Jerusalem for 21 years. Very wealthy people. It's like in this week, it's an interesting thing that we talk about this Talmud. Just this week, we had a fine Jewish couple, Michael Dell and his wife Susan, donated $6.25 billion to put into the Trump accounts, which is for children from lower income families with 150,000 income and below, from certain area codes, that whatever, and that would give I don't know how much, but it would give for 25 million children. It would give them money that when they're born, they get it. When they're 18, all of that interest, all of that would be ready for them to have which is an unbelievable thing. And they say that there are many, many more billionaires that are going to be matching that and putting it in. And that's a completely selfless act. They're doing that for what? I mean, he made good money selling computers. I'm sure we all bought a Dell computer at one point or another. We bought chips. We bought whatever else it may have been from Dell Technologies. And he's giving it back. He's giving it back to the future, which is an incredible thing. That people who have need to feel a responsibility to give. It's a really important thing. If you have, you must give. You must give. That's why Hashem gives it to you. Hashem gives it to you. Now, everyone can determine for themselves what's the best way to give it. Is it to give it to 25 million children? Is it to give it to a school, to a synagogue, to a family? Who should be the recipient? That every person should have their own calculation and ask Hashem for guidance as to the best way to give their blessing to others. However, so that 21 years they can support the entire Jerusalem. However, there were a few baryone. Baryone are boors, empty people, with the propensity towards violence. Amrul Rabbanon, the rabbi said to them, Neifuk v'navod shlomo behadayu. Let us go out and make peace with the Romans. Lo shavkinu, the baryone would not let them do so. Amar lahu, they said to the rabbis, Neifuk v'navod kirava behadayu. Let us go out and wage war against the Romans, not peace. Let's fight with them. Amrul Rabbanon, the rabbi said, Lo mistayeh milsa. It will not be successful. It's not going to be a successful battle. Why are you trying to fight against the Romans? Kamu kolinu la'anu ambre dechite v'sare v'havi knofa. The Baryone arose and burned down the storehouses of wheat and barley and wood, and there was a famine in the city. It's an interesting thing. Sometimes you see people, we live in a country which has the freedom of speech. It's a really special thing. It's a special gift that we have in the United States, in these United States of America. It's an amazing gift that we have the ability to say whatever you want. You can say whatever you want. But the Jewish people sometimes have an issue that we don't, last week's Torah portion we saw that Jacob went and tricked his father so that he can get the blessing from Esav. The father says, Hayadayim, Hakol kol Yaakov, Hayadayim idei Esav. The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands, they're the hands of Esav. What does that mean? The voice. He hears Yaakov talking, it sounds like Yaakov. But when he touched him, when he felt him, he says the hands are Esav. Violence is not a Jewish trait. Violence is not a Jewish trait. Words, influence with words, that is a Jewish trait. And when the Jews get confused, you'll find here and there, you'll find a Jewish guy who's a boxer or one of these fighters, but it's not a Jewish trait. The Jewish trait is to use our words, our persuasion. It's not a Jewish trait to fight. And when we do, it never turns out good for us. It never turns out good for us. I know someone asked my rabbi, he says, should Jewish people get guns? We're not 80 years out of the Holocaust. Maybe we should learn a thing from then. Maybe everyone should carry an arm, a weapon. The rabbi said, you have to know yourself. Sometimes Jews have a crazy imagination. And they can do things that are not good. You have to know yourself. You have to know what your place is. You have to know what you're capable of. If you have the right demeanor, then maybe. But if you don't, you got to be careful. That's not our strong suit. It's not our strong suit. To be violent, to be warriors. That's not our thing. We're much better in politics. We're much better, again, with our words, with persuasion. So they burnt down everything. There was a famine in the city. The Gemara relates one of the tragic effects of the famine. Marta bas baisus atirta the Yerushalayim havya. Martha, the daughter of Botus, was the wealthiest woman in Jerusalem. Shadarta l'shluche ve'armale. She sent out her agent saying to him, Zil aisili smida, go out and bring some bread made of fine flour. Ad ozal izdaban. By the time he went to go get the bread made of fine flour, it was already sold out. Asa Amarlo, he went back and told her, Samida leka chivarta ika. He says, I can get you bread, white bread, but I can't get you the fine bread. Amrale, she said to him, Zil aiseli, go and bring some white bread. Ad azal idzaban. When the agent went out, there was no more white bread. Asav Amrale, he told her there's no more white bread either. Chivarta leka gushkira ika. There's no more white bread, but there is coarse bread. Amrale zil aiseli, go get it. Ad azal izdaban. By the time he went, there was no more coarse bread left. Asav Amrale, he told her, gushkira leka kimcha disare ika. But there is barley flour. Amrale, she said to him, Zil aiseli, so then go get the barley flour. Ad azal izdaban. By the time he went out, there was no more barley flour. It was all sold. Hava shlifa misana amra. Although she was not wearing her shoes, she said, Epuk va'achazi mishkachna midi lemechal. I will go out and see whether I can find anything to eat. Eisiv la parto bikara umesa. Some animal bit her in her foot, and she became nauseous, and she died. Kore Allah Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai recited the following verse about her. Haraka becha va'anuga asher lo nista kaf raglo. The delicate and pampered woman amongst you who never ventured to set the sole of her foot upon the ground. This is from Deuteronomy. The verse appears in the context of the prophecy that foretells the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple. So we see that there was a devastating result here that transpired because of this. I mean, you can imagine the famine. I don't understand this agent that she had. Like, just get what there is. Like, if what do you have to go back every time and ask her? I guess he knew what his master wanted, and if he came with something that was less than she had approved, she'd get upset or whatever. But when you're dealing with a famine, it's not the time to. All right, an alternative version of the cause of Martha's death. Ika da Amri, groi grois de Rabbi Tzadok achlo. She ate the dried figs of Rabbi Tzadok, v'itnisa umesa, and she became nauseous and died from that. Okay, different version. The reference to Rabbi Tzadok is explained. Okay. The Rabbi Tzadok Yasiv Arbain Shtin B'Tanisa, for Rabbi Tzadok fasted for 40 years. That doesn't mean he fasted for 40 years straight. Obviously, you can't live like that. But he fasted during the day, he only ate at night. He fasted for 40 years. Obviously, you don't fast on Shabbos either. But for 40 years, he fasted. Why did he fast? So that Jerusalem should not be destroyed. Ki hava ochel midi. He was so thin that when he ate anything, it could be seen from the outside going down his throat. That's how skinny he was. Have mitchese de aborai. V'chi hava bari. When he nourished himself after concluding his fasts, since he was not able to consume solids, Maisile groigros. They brought him dried figs. Moyetz me'ayhu v'shadiluhu. And he would suck out their moisture and then discard them. So the Gemara concludes the story with Martha, the daughter of Botus, that what? Kihavi konaich nafshe, when she was dying, afikso lechol dehava v'kaspa. She took all of the gold and silver that she had, shadise b'shuka, and she threw it into the marketplace. Amra, she said, Hi lemai mi boile. What do I need all of it for? If I can't get bread, what do I need the money for? What do I need the gold? What do I need the silver? I don't need it. V'hainu dichsiv, and this is fulfilling the verse that states in a prophecy, Kaspam b'chutzos yashlichu, that they will throw their silver into the streets because it's not going to be worth anything. If you don't have money, is only worth something if you can buy something with it. But if you can't buy anything, what's money worth? Right? So she threw it out, and this is a prophecy that the prophecy says that the time of the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem, people will just throw their gold and silver out onto the streets. It's not going to be worth anything. So now the Gemara returns to the original story. Abba Sirko Reish Biryoni Yerushalayim Bar Achyose to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai Hava. He says, Abba Sikra, the head of these violent gangs in Jerusalem, was the son of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's sister. He was his nephew. The nephew of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Shalach le Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai sent the following message to him, Ta bitzinu legaboy. Come to me quietly. Come in a secret, discreetly, don't tell anybody that you're coming here. Also, Abba Sikra, the head of the violent gang, comes to his uncle, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Omar le Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai told him, Ad emas avdisu hachi. How long are you going to act like this and kill everyone through starvation? V'katlinu lei le'alma bechafna. Omar le Abba Sikra told him, my iavid, what can I do? Di'i aminu luhu midi katluli. If I say anything to my gang that is contrary to their agenda, they're going to kill me. Which, by the way, happens a lot in politics. Right? Where politicians believe one way, and they'll tell you, this is what but what am I going to tell my voters? What am I going to tell my voters? What am I going to tell my advisors? What am I going to tell my people? Amar le Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said to him, Chazi li takanto lididi de'efuk. Find a way for me to get out of the city. Efshar dahavi hatzola purta. Perhaps there will be a small measure of salvation. Amar le Abba Sikra said to him, Nekot nafshecha b'ktziri. He says, make yourself out to be sick. V'leisi kula alma v'lishaylu bach. And let everyone come and ask about you. V'aisimidi sarya v'agne gabach. Then take something that smells bad, such as the carcass of an animal, and lay it down next to you in your bed. V'leimru denach nafshe. And they're going to say, oh, he died. And that his body began to decompose and smell. V'le'aylu bach talmidach. Then let your students enter and take hold of your bed and carry it out. And do not let anyone else enter and carry your bed. That they shouldn't expect, so anybody else who holds your bed will notice, dead weight. You know why it's called dead weight? Because a dead body weighs heavier than a living body. So they're going to pick up your coffin, so to speak, or your bed, and they're going to feel that it's lighter. So they shouldn't ask any questions. The inu yadi the chaya kolil mimese. For the biryone know that a living person feels lighter than a corpse. Avid hachi. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai did as he was advised. Nichnas bo Rabbi Lazar mitzad echad, Rabbi Yeshua mitzad echad. Rabbi Eliezer, his student, entered and took one side of his bed, and Rabbi Yeshua took the other side. They carried the bed to the gate of the city. Kimatu lepitcho bo lemidkere. When they reached the gate, the mobsters that were watching the gate, they were guarding the gate, wanted to stab Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai with spears to make sure that he was really dead. Is he really dead? Amar luhu Abba Sikra said to them, Yomru Rabon Dakru. Shall the Romans say that the Jews stabbed their rabbi? Bo lemidchefe. The Brioni wanted to shove Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai to see whether he would cry out. We'll throw him off. Let's see. A dead person thrown off a gurney, thrown off a stretcher, won't cry, won't make any noise. If he's living, then he will. Let's see if that works. Amar Lahu Abba Sikra, the head mobster, his nephew, says, Yomu Rabban Dachfu. Again, the Romans are going to say that that's the way you treat your rabbi. You shove him off his bed. Paschule Bava Nafak. The Brione finally opened the gate for him, and he was carried out. Kimatalaha. So when Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai reached the Roman camp, Amar Shloma Allah Malka Shloma Allah Malka. He went to Vespasian, and he said, "Peace be upon you, O king. Peace be upon you, O king." Amalei, Vespasian said to him, "Michayavas treik tola. You are liable to death on two different accounts. Chada, first, delav malka ana, v'kokaris li malka. First is, I'm not a king, and you're mocking me by calling me a king. So that's the first reason you should be put to death. V'su, and furthermore, imalka ana, if I am the king, ad ho'idno amayloi osis legaboy. Why did you not come until now? Now you show up?" Amar Alei, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said to him, Dika amart lav malkano. To that which you say that you're not a king, ibra malkaat. The truth is that you are destined to be a king. Di lav malkaat, because if you're not destined to be the king, lo mimsura Yerushalayim biyadach. Jerusalem would not have been delivered to your hands. Dichsiv v'halavanon ba'adir yipol. The Levanon will fall to a mighty one. Ve'in adir el melech. We know a mighty one is always translated to mean a king. The chsiv v'hu adiro mimenu, as the verse states. He brings a verse to back this up. Ve'in Levanon ella beis hamikdash, and Levanon is always referring to the temple. Shenemer, and he brings a verse to back that up as well. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai now responds to the second accusation. What was the second accusation? Now you come? You wait all this long to come now? He says, "The Qur'an and that which you say, Ana malka ana amayla ka'osis legaboi adaina. Why didn't I come till now?" The answer is, B'yoni de izban lo shafkino. The mobsters that were guarding the city of Jerusalem, the violent ones, they didn't let us leave. Amar lei, so he says to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, Ilu chavis shel dvash udrakoin karuch aleha lo hayu shovrin es a chavis b'shvil drakoin. If there is a keg of honey and a dangerous snake was pursuing it, one would not break the keg because of the snake, so that the snake will go away. Right? Likewise, you should have destroyed the walls of the city so that these violent ones should be drawn out. Ishtik, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was silent. So now the Gemara comments on his silence. Kari alei Rabbi Yossi v'yitemi Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yosef, and as some say it was Rabbi Akiva, recited the following verse about Reb Yochanan ben Zakkai. Meshiv chachamim achor v'datam yisakel. He, God, turns wise men backwards and makes their thinking foolish. Why? Because he should have answered. He should have said something. Why does Hashem sometimes take the words away from the sages? Anybody know why? Why does Hashem sometimes take? Typically, you ever have an experience where you can't find your words, you don't know what to say? Oh, yeah. You're speechless, right? So it happens to the sages as punishment for the people's sins. God took away Rabbi Yochanan's ability to answer. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai should have answered, if a dangerous snake were in pursuit of a keg of honey, we would take tongs, grab hold of the snake, and kill it. Shaklinon tzivasa, v'shaklinon le lidrakon v'katlinon le. V'chaviso shavkin, and we would leave the keg intact. And this would answer the question, to right, of Vespasian's argument that they should have destroyed the city walls so that the violent gang could be expelled. We don't break the wall, right? Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai should have responded that they were waiting for an opportunity to drive out the Biryani without having to destroy the city. That's what they were looking for. Okay. So we're going to continue this, God willing, next week we're going to continue this piece.
You've been listening to Rabbi Aryeh Wolbe on a podcast produced by Torch, the Torah Outreach Resource Center of Houston. Please help sponsor an episode so we can continue to produce more quality Jewish content for our listeners around the globe. Please visit torchweb.org to donate and partner with us on this incredible endeavor.